The Legislature Today is on the air from our flagship affiliate, the voice of the Northern Plains 550 Cape Fire, and affiliates Talk Radio AM 1100 The Flag Fargo and Talk Radio 1090 The Flag in the Bakken. We're broadcasting live from the historic Peacock Alley American Grill and Bar in downtown Bismarck, the National Cattlemen's Association Beef Innovator of the Year. You're about to find out what's happening in the North Dakota legislative session. Your host of the Legislature Today is Dale Wetzel, managing editor of Great Plains News and the Great Plains Examiner. If you have questions or comments or to watch the show, go to GreatPlainsNews.com. GreatPlainsNews.com. The Legislature Today is brought to you by the North Dakota Association of Oil and Gas Producing Counties, the Credit Union Association of the Dakota, the University of Mary, the North Dakota Corn, Soybean and Grain Growers Association, and the North Dakota Ethanol Council, the Northwest Landowners Association, Touchstone Energy Cooperative, North Dakota Rural Electric Cooperatives Association, and members Minn Kota Power and Great River Energy, the North Dakota chapter of Concerned Women for America, the Expressway Inn and Suites, where a good night's rest costs less, and the Peacock Alley. It's time to get started. Another hour of the Legislature Today is on the air.
This is Dale Wetzel. This is the Legislature Today radio program. We're coming to you from the Peacock Alley American Bar and Grill in downtown Bismarck, North Dakota. We're going to be speaking about ag issues and some other things in our next hour. And we have with us Senator Jerry Klein, who is the Assistant Senate Republican Majority Leader and the Chairman of the Senate Industry, Business, and Labor Committee. We have Mr. Scott Rising, who is the Legislative Director of the North Dakota Soybean Growers Association. And we have Brother Dan Wogslin, the Director of the North Dakota Grain Growers Association and a former North Dakota Senate Democratic Majority Leader. This person does exist in our world today, ladies and gentlemen. A former Democratic North Dakota Legislative Majority Leader. Yes, it has happened. And after this session is over, who knows, it might happen again. We are in day 79 of North Dakota held hostage. To borrow a line from the 1980s Nightline television show, tomorrow is day 80, which is the limit to which the legislative session may go every 2 years, according to the North Dakota Constitution. And to borrow a phrase from Lieutenant Governor Drew Wrigley, if you have 80 days, you might as well use them. And they are definitely being used to the maximum this session. It is the longest session in North Dakota modern history. The only one that's longer was the first one in 1889, when they needed, I think, 120 days to set up the state of North Dakota. Apparently, it would be interesting to
I think it was property tax that they were.
Yes, indeed. And one of the bits of drama that's going to be consuming us in the next day is that just before our show began, the North Dakota House approved by 2 votes, 49 to 42. You need at least 48 votes in the North Dakota House to approve something. By a narrow margin, the North Dakota House approved an education finance bill that's been championed by Republican Governor Jack Dalrymple, and there was resistance to it in the House because, according to its critics, it doesn't do enough to rein in the growth of property taxes. Well, the North Dakota Senate was to vote on this bill this evening, but that did not happen because the North Dakota House did not give up the bill so that the Senate could vote on it, and they want to reconsider the bill and kill it. And it's made for an interesting bit of gamesmanship on day 80 of the North Dakota legislature, and we'll see how that shakes out. In the meantime, there are 8 other bills still left to be voted upon in the House and Senate. They range from the budget bill to the Department of Public Instruction to a credit on income taxes for property tax payments for people, the budget for North Dakota's university system, the North Dakota University System's funding formula, which would regulate how state aid is distributed amongst the 11 schools in North Dakota's university system. We have the budget for the highway patrol, and we also have a bill that deals with the electric distribution tax. And yes, we need to finish all of these by 7 a.m. Saturday or else, I don't know, maybe we all go to jail. But what we're here this evening to do is the Legislature Today is sustained by major sponsors, and one of our sponsors, actually two of them, are the North Dakota Grain Growers Association and the North Dakota Soybean Growers Association. We've been speaking on Thursday night about agriculture in this legislature. But first of all, Mr. Wogson, since you have firsthand experience closing down a session, what's going through your mind as this is playing out? I mean, is this a situation where you'd like to be in playing the game, or are you just glad to be sitting in the stands?
Well, let me tell you something, Dale. It's awfully nice to be on my side of the rail instead of Senator Klein's side of the rail. I got to tell you, but you got to love the process, and this isn't unusual. Certainly, things like this have happened before. I can remember back in 1987, which some of your listeners may not even have been around in 1987. But we had a bill at about 2 a.m. in the morning, and I had happened to be the Senate conference chairman. And for some odd reason, they didn't think the amendments were right in the House. And I can still see Representative Strinden pointing his finger with Representative Getz right behind him, going, "What did you do?" And I'm going, "I didn't do anything." So this isn't unusual, and it's not unusual. But something. The whole session has been something that North Dakota's never experienced. We have never had the prosperity that we have right now, and I got to congratulate everyone that has worked in the 63rd Legislative Assembly. They've done an excellent job, and it's not easy. We worked back in the 80s and the 90s with not a lot of money. Dale, you remember those days very well. These folks have got budgets that we didn't even dream possible back in 1993 when I was Senate Majority Leader, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing because it shows the economy of the state of North Dakota is strong, continues to be strong. But with that come the challenges, and but having the rails come off, having the wheels come off the session at this point, not unusual.
Well, Dan, we don't have to go back to 1993. I've been in sessions. I've been here since 97. We certainly have had our years of lack of funding where state employees barely got a 1% and a 0%. We struggled with that. We were proud of ourselves. We had $3 million for water projects, which today the governor signed a bill with $515 million in various projects across the state. So, but when you say what goes through your mind, I just think my wife's saying, "When are you coming home?" and right now, I think that's what's going through a lot of folks' mind. I think as I listened to an earlier segment of your program, you did make a comment. It is day 79 today, and we've got some major issues that we still need to address. But I'd have to agree with Dan. We have got tremendous potential. We've seen a tremendous amount of wants out there and a lot of needs. And we've been looking at needs for many years, and now we're going to be trying to catch up. The road budget, $2.some billion.
2.4.
It's unbelievable. It's it's going to be great. We're going to get a lot of work done. I visited with our engineer today. He's just excited about all the water projects going on. We got a lot of good things going.
We're going to put out a big under construction sign for the next 2 years, I think.
It's going to be amazing. When you take a look at it, $1.1 billion going to help the infrastructure needs in western North Dakota, an amazing feat for the state of North Dakota. And the opportunity to be able to do that and meet some of those needs is very, very impressive. I go back to that 1990 time, 1993. I don't think we spent in the entire North Dakota budget $2 billion. I don't think we did. Exactly. And $1 billion is what Jerry's putting up. Take and think we're putting $2 billion just into roads in the state of North Dakota. An incredible accomplishment.
Should I use the word economic stimulus?
We have an opportunity to rebuild our grandfather's infrastructure, and we're really excited about that. It's we got the last 40 acres to harvest on the farm, and so far harvest has been going great. Everybody's holding up well, and there's no reason to expect that we won't get done.
Scott, how well did agriculture do in this session, do you think?
Well, from the perspective that I think the soybean growers came here in early January with, I think we've done very well. The basic needs of our ag research budget has been met. Primary and at the top of that list are 4 much-needed agronomy labs that are spread out across the state. There's ongoing work with property tax and basic tax relief that isn't quite resolved yet. But the infrastructure piece of it is huge for us. It's absolutely critical that we be able to get around and move our harvest to our markets, and this is a huge, huge step for us.
What are the importance of the agronomy labs in particular?
Well, it all starts with the soil, and the agronomy labs are where we, in fact, study the soil. That is the core to what happens in agriculture. We can't add the wind and the rain by ourselves, for the most part, so it's important to understand the soil makeup. And we think that we have some real advantage in that. And the current agronomy labs, as they exist across the state, with the exception of out west in Williston, are, well, antiquated would be a generous term for them. They're more like garages.
Old granaries.
Yes, old granaries, garages.
And what will these be able to do, these new ones?
Well, it'll provide the space for and the opportunity to have an environment so that you can do scientific work rather than to get by. And I compare it a little bit. It's having a full toolbox rather than a monkey wrench to play with. So it's huge important.
Mr. Wogslin, how would you assess how agriculture came out in this session?
I think the agriculture's come out very well, Dale. I think we've done excellent. Scott brings up ag research, for example. That's an 8-to-1 return on investment for the state of North Dakota. That's a huge investment, but that's a huge return on that investment for the state's number one industry. The other things we've worked on some water issues, for example, some of the water management issues that are so critically important. You know, as we look to eastern North Dakota, and we talk about the flood or the lack of the flood for Fargo, and thank goodness there wasn't the flood that they expected. The fact is that there is water management into play in eastern North Dakota in that Red River Valley watershed that is taking place that has helped to alleviate that flooding. We've got a lot more to do there, but we took a great big start at that, and we're very, very proud of what the North Dakota legislature accomplished in that regard.
Talk about the great big start here.
Well, one of the things that we've had a lot of problems in the regulatory with some of the federal regulatory agencies in terms of allowing for water management in the state. Despite that, farmers in eastern North Dakota have taken water management upon themselves, and so we've got tiling going on, for example, in eastern North Dakota and western North Dakota. In eastern North Dakota, we never had before. That's orderly water management. Those pumps can be turned on, they can be turned off at the desired time. We need to expand that, and I think we've got the opportunities to do that. But we also said, as a legislature, that we're not happy with some of these regulations, and we're not happy with some of the inconsistencies that agencies like U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Natural Resources Conservation Service have done to North Dakota farmers. That said, North Dakota legislature said, knock it off. And they didn't just tell NRCS and they didn't just tell U.S. Fish and Wildlife that. They told the President of the United States that. They told the North Dakota Congressional Delegation that. And these are the kinds of starts that I think we need, because we've got to re-examine this whole thing. The Fargo Flood Project took up a lot of time, and Jerry can attest to that. That said, if we have better orderly water management in place in that watershed, I think that's going to go a lot further than some of the diversion ideas that are out there right now.
You know, I'd just like to chime in on where we're at in agriculture. And, I've served on the Ag Committee 9 sessions. This has probably been one of the easier sessions I've ever been. But when agriculture seems to be running on all cylinders, things are good. And I've been through some sessions where we've had some really difficult issues. We've worked extremely hard, and we've had some very emotional testimony in a lot of things. But I think oftentimes we're letting the oil get a little bit ahead of us because agriculture has been here, will continue to be here, and is still a big main driver of our economy. And right now, North Dakota, we are darn lucky. We've got ag's running good, oil's running good, brings up our sales tax. We've got industry relocating here. This has been great times. So, we can always get back to the enjoyment we're having of spending all that money, but it's because of agriculture, and certainly it's going to continue to be there long and well into the future.
Do you think that agriculture has become almost like a second banana in the legislature?
Well, Senator Wanzik would always talk about his girlfriend, the lady that came from California, but I didn't want to hear that story again. But, of course, this girlfriend from out west has brought her own money, and that's one of the things that we sometimes look beyond. I think Scott has done a remarkable job of continuing to work hard for roads, for example, throughout the state. And, agriculture, oil may be a main function of out west, but the farmers are still out there working in between those oil trucks and those water trucks and those fracking equipment. Agriculture continues to be out throughout the state, and we've got to continue working hard to keep our roads up to snuff and invest in them. And I think if this economy keeps going, and we come back next time, or whoever comes back next time, there is going to be that infrastructure is. Yes. We're going to have the best infrastructure in America if we can continue to wisely invest our money in a lot of these things.
And that gives us the. Oh, sorry.
Those investments are absolutely critical for agriculture. I think Senator Bowman had a line yesterday morning when we finished up this research budget where he said, if it's not green in the spring, it's not gold in the fall, and there is just so much truth in that. So.
And that advantage with that infrastructure gives us the competitive advantage worldwide. We're an export state. That's what we do. 50% of our wheat goes across the seas. 90% of our soybeans go out of this country. Fact is, if we don't have that competitive advantage in getting that product to those markets, we lose. North Dakota farmers lose. We'll lose out to competitors, not only domestic competitors, but also in the foreign competition. Yes. We can't afford to do that, and our farmers deserve to have that opportunity.
Senator Klein, what is this prosperity doing for rural businesses? I mean, you are, first of all, I would like you to talk for a moment about what you do for a living.
Well,
and how what you do for a living is affected by prosperity in rural North Dakota.
Well, Dale, I'm a small town merchant. I'm the grocer. I think I'm the only grocer in the legislature currently. We've been in our small town grocery store, Fezna, North Dakota, for the past 35 years. Of course, rural North Dakota has seen a tremendous amount of change from the time I grew up on the family farm 6 miles north of Zeeland, and where the neighbors were but a mile away. And as we travel down our roads and byways now, we see our neighbors have moved farther and farther back. So rural North Dakota is still, our small communities are still at a struggle. As I grew up, if we couldn't get it in town or in the catalog, we didn't need it. If we didn't go to town on Saturday night, we weren't going to have anything to eat next week. We've become a mobile society. But if agriculture does well, and that's where I live. I live out in the middle of a very, it's an abundant, we have a great agriculture area in where I live. The farmers are my backbone. I need the farmers, and the farmers drive the elevator, and the elevator has employees, and it's all works together. And the farmers that stay, and they have children, but we see more and more of the older people who want to be next to their cardiologist, and believe it's better if I lived in the city. But we continue to fight for that. We attempt to be more competitive. We certainly have box stores that we didn't have 35 years ago in North Dakota. We didn't have a club membership anywhere, and weren't able to load up on a trip to Bismarck, because when I grew up, we went to Bismarck once a year, and that was a very well-planned trip because we had to get home and milk the cows. So You know, the rural areas there's communities that are not going to be out there, but certainly there's a lot of areas in my area, Harvey, Rugby, a lot of communities that are still bustling and building and creating jobs out there. So, and everybody's working hard out there to maintain that kind of quiet, easier living image, and that's why I like living where I do.
Okay, once a year. When was that?
We went on August the 15th because it was a Catholic holiday, and we would go and come to Bismarck, and oftentimes we would even bring our own lunch because you know how much it cost if you went to the restaurant. But as a kid, we did go to Woolworths one time, and the lady behind the counter, they fried the hamburgers right there where I could watch them.
Did you get a soda jerk too?
We had a malt, and I shared it with my little brother.
How much did your little brother get?
You know, he always whined a lot more than I did, but he lives in Indiana now, so he won't be hearing me say this.
This show is available on YouTube. I think I'm going to send the link to your brother. I'll make sure he listens to this. The agriculture, I'm interested in knowing is the attitude, this is great, when is it going to end, or this is great, it can continue?
Dale, I think, first of all, I'm optimistic, and I believe that it can continue. But we have to put the building blocks in place to make sure that it continues. The state of North Dakota has done its part, primarily in the area of research and extension, as well as in infrastructure needs. So the state of North Dakota has done its part. Now it's time for the feds to step into place, and we need a farm bill. We need a farm bill now. I know that they're working on that. In fact, Senator Hoeven was in today talking about the risk management agency and crop insurance issues. But that's the next part of it. But what we need to do and what we've got to look forward to, because everyone's saying, well, it's, you know, the bubble's going to burst, What we've got to work towards as policymakers, in my view, is working towards that sustainability, to make sure that what we've got going right now in this economy for North Dakota farmers is sustained. Because you know what? It's really exciting. I'll tell you, you go to a farm meeting now, and you're seeing young people at those farm meetings. I mean, very young people, and they're excited and they're energized. When you go to Jerry's store, I'd venture to guess that he's seeing a younger clientele all the time. That's exciting. That's good, and that's good for pheasant in North Dakota, and it's good for Wallem, North Dakota, and it's good for Bismarck, and it's good for Fargo too. So that's the kind of excitement I see, and I think that opportunity's there. But we as policymakers have got to make sure that it's sustained.
How do we do that?
Well, I think we put, number one, we put in place a federal farm bill that really can take care of folks. And one of the cornerstones of that, of course, in bad times, takes care of people in bad times, not in good times. We can all sustain in good times. The fact is if there is a downturn, we've got to have policies in place like crop insurance to make sure that we can get over these weather-related things that we have no control over.
We'll talk about crop insurance in our next half hour. We've been speaking to Dan Wogslin, who is the director of the North Dakota Grain Growers Association, and he is a former North Dakota Senate Democratic Majority Leader. And I mention that because we've been talking to him about his experience in closing down a session. We also have been speaking to Scott Rising, who's the legislative director of the North Dakota Soybean Growers Association. He's the legislative director. The Soybean Growers Association and the grain growers are sponsors of the Legislature Today. We also have been speaking to Jerry Klein, the Assistant Senate Republican Majority Leader. We'll be back in a moment. My name is Dale Wetzler.